Hey teacher friends, today we're going to take a look at using Canva to publish a classroom newsletter, or for that matter a school newsletter or a concert bulletin, any kind of published document. Canva really does a nice job of it. So we're on my Canva screen right now. We're on the screen where we can see my designs. I'm going to click over one and I'm going to go to templates here. And we're going to search for what we want to build. So in a Google Doc, over the course of the month, I have made the notes of the things that I would put into a classroom newsletter. And sure, I could definitely take this Google Doc and I could print it and it would be just fine as a classroom letter. It's got all of the information. But I kind of like to produce something that looks a little bit nicer than this. So here's my Google Doc. I've got an intro and then I've got 4 categories of information that I need to communicate to the families in my classroom, and then I've got kind of a closing piece. So I'd like to find myself a template that maybe has 5 or possibly 6 areas that can be utilized. So let's come over to Canva and we're going to let it know what it is we want to create today. And so when I do that search, you can see that it brings up a number of different options for me to choose from. And so if I glance through, lots of them seem to have a fairly lengthy piece and then some smaller fly-out boxes, lots of choices to choose from here. I'm going to just start with this first grade newsletter. It's got a nice December feel to it. And actually now when I open it, I see that there are other templates in the same kind of a series. So if I wanted to use a similar template going forward, I've definitely got the ability to just grab one real quickly here and customize. So I'm going to click on that customize this template, and that brings us into the editable version now. So here's my newsletter. So I've got an intro, dates, hot lunch, classroom highlights, and reminders. And my biggest text is in the kind of the intro. So I'm going to come back over here and I'm going to do that one in this section. So I'm going to change this section to teacher's note because I've put that in. And actually there's a little bit more room there. Now I am going to do some changing with the fonts as well, but I'm going to see if maybe we can fit just a little bit more into that teacher's note space. And if we have to adjust it as we go, we can do that too. Okay, let's do reminders here. Okay, so that's got my data in here. Now, I'm not loving this Sniglet font. So I am going to do some changes to the fonts and a little bit of formatting and a few changes, but I just want to show you how to do that. So if I click on here and then I click on Sniglet, out comes the menu of fonts. And Canva has tons of fonts. And so if you're looking for something that kind of represents the way that we teach kids to print, but you're sick of Comic Sans, because let's be honest, everybody's sick of Comic Sans, let's try Poppins. It does a really nice job of giving us a font where the A's are correct, the G's are correct. It's really the way that we do teach children how to print. Now here's a neat thing. If I click on this and I go up here to Sniglet and I change it to Poppins, I have a choice down here at the bottom of the font menu to change all of the instances of Sniglet to Poppins. And if this was a multiple page document, it would change all of those for me if I asked it to. So we're going to have it do that because I would like this all to be Poppins, and then we'll change the font size and we'll do some other tweaking to it. Okay, so now we are at Poppins and we're at 11.3, but this has gone over the edge. So let's just, if I hold down Shift and click on all of them, I can get them all selected. And then I'm going to change it to 10 and see how we do. Okay, everything fits. Now I'm just going to do some real quick formatting of some things, and then we'll talk about kind of the final stages to finish this up. Okay, I like how I've got this laid out. Now I want to change a few things up at the top. So let's start by changing this to Mrs. B's newsletter. I can change any of this up here as well, including all of the letters. I'm not loving this Santa. And so I think I'm going to click on him and I'm going to just press the backspace or delete key on my keyboard. And we're going to come over here to elements. and we're going to search Christmas and see what we can find that could go there instead. So you can see I've got lots of different categories of items here. I'm going to go into graphics and just see what we've got. So let's have a glance through here, see if I can find something I like better than that Santa. Let's give this little deer a try. If we bring him up to the top corner here. Not sure I like him on the brown on the red background. Now I can approach this two ways. I could change the red background to a different color, or I could change the deer out. So let's take him back off and let's give this little snowman a try. I kind of like him. So let's shrink this down a bit and pull him into that spot. And I kind of like the scarf tassels hanging off the edge of the rectangle. They're kind of pulling it down into the data of the newsletter. So I'm liking that, but I'm not sure about this red. So here's one of the powerful tools in Canva, is this one here called position. So when we go to position, there's a couple things. So we've got a range where you can really control exactly where things are being placed, or I've got layers, and this is the order that they exist on the screen. And so I want to change this red rectangle to different colors. So here's a red rectangle. That's the hot lunch one down here. Okay, I can see that. So if I keep going, let's click on this rectangle. That's the reminders one. That's the bottom of the screen one. And that's the top of the screen. So let's start changing it to a green. I've got it selected, and I'm going to choose color. And my color panel opens here. Now with document colors, this green is going to be the same green that we see on the images. It's going to match pretty much perfectly. And so that looks good, but it might be just a little bit too something. I'm not sure. So I'm going to go to the color picker here. I'm just going to kind of slide it around a little bit, see if I want it to go darker green, or if I want to go up to a brighter green. Now I kind of like it in close to the color, maybe there. So there we go. I've adjusted and I've tweaked it a little bit. I like the end result better than what I had previously. So here's my dates, my information for December. I'm thinking maybe I'm going to put one more little graphic just maybe down here. So let's go back to elements. We're still in the Christmas file here. Let's see if there's, I don't know, like a present or something maybe. Let's try that one. Now you can see that it's behind the text. So it might be a little hard to grab. So we're just going to go back over to position here. And we're going to pull it up to where it's in front of all of that text. And I'm going to just shrink it down a little bit there. And let's pull it over kind of in between those two spots. And I kind of like the way that pulls the flow from one side to the other. Now I don't really have, other than the gingerbread, anything brown, so I might want to change the browns. For me, I'm just going to leave it. I think this is working just fine. So here is my newsletter. Now, I want to either attach this into Google Classroom, or I want to print it, one of those kinds of things. Before I do that, I'm going to name it so that when I download it and when I put it into my Google Drive, it's something I can find later on. That automatically named file from the template, that's not something I'm going to be able to search later. For me, when I do file names, I tend to, especially for something like this, I tend to start with the year in a numeric value and the month in a numeric value. Because what that's going to do is next year, it's going to make it easy for me to find this. So 2025, 12th month newsletter. Now we've got a print with Canva option. That's like if you wanted a professional printing. Like if you were designing posters for your classroom and you wanted them printed large, that's where you would go to do it. It's kind of like ordering something from Shutterfly, or if you're old like me and you remember when people used to mail their cans of film off to somebody to develop them and then the photos would come in the mail, that kind of thing. That's not usually how we do things in education. So I'm going to go to the share button. And underneath share, I have the option to download it, which is what I want to do. So I'm going to download, and it's suggesting the file type be a PNG, which is an image file, and that would be a fine file depending on what I'm doing with this. But I think what I want is I want a PDF. I want to be able to print this. I want to be able to attach it in Google Classroom or post it on my Google Site class website. So I'm going to choose PDF, and then I'm going to choose flatten PDF. Because if I don't do that, everything remains somewhat movable. And this matters if you have purchased some clip art that you have the license to use it for your classroom content, but it needs to be locked down. This will allow it to lock. I'm going to hit the download button, and now it is downloading that PDF. And from there, I will be able to attach it in Google Classroom or print it, whatever I need to do. But there it is, my download history 2025 12th month newsletter. So now I've used Canva to build myself a newsletter, and next year I could edit this same newsletter if I wanted to. So there's a quick run through of how to use Canva to build classroom newsletter, school newsletter, those kinds of resources. Hope this was helpful.